Let's hit specifically the first topic of monitoring employee activity. Under the NISPOM, there are great countermeasures that help prevent outsiders from breaking into clear defense contractor locations. And NISPOM lists those countermeasures, which include alarms, locks, and access control. Again, these do a great job of keeping external people outside of the organization, but there are also other requirements that came before the insider threat program came about. And these requirements are based on the 13 adjudicative criteria. And if you go back, if you're unfamiliar with this and you go back into my security clearance discussions on this podcast, you can remember, or you may recall, that we talked about those 13 adjudicative criteria, include topics under foreign control, foreign influence, foreign relations, legal problems, some counseling, financial issues. And so there are, again, 13 items that we should be reporting. And these are called, and there are reporting requirements according to NISPOM that should be provided to the facility security officer. Reporting requirements include items that will make classified information more vulnerable or show lack of ability to protect classified information. So these reporting requirements also include things that may affect an individual's ability to protect classified information, as well as a facility's ability to protect classified information according to NISPOM. But again, there are those reporting requirements that should be leveraged. But my argument is that any one of these 13 adjudicative criteria topics may not necessarily indicate an insider threat. Again, they're broad general topics that may highlight a behavior and highlight a potential concern, but reporting on these may not indicate an insider threat, may indicate somebody's unable to properly make wise decisions as far as their personal lives. For example, if somebody is arrested for drunk driving, does not mean that they are going to commit espionage or sabotage. However, if a person is involved with other types of events, such as indications of foreign allegiance, that might be a better indicator. But again, it does not indicate that they are going to commit espionage. So there are better things to look for. Again, these reporting requirements are necessary. They should be conducted. However, relying solely on these reporting requirements is not the complete answer. It's part of it. So monitoring an employee's online activity or unclassified network activity may not really indicate an insider threat as far as classified information is concerned. And so that just needs to be tweaked a little bit. And I'll give some recommendations in another podcast. But right now, if an organization is relying solely on this or the other countermeasure of monitoring employee activity, it may not be enough. But I will provide recommendations on what you can do to recognize red flags. Again, by all means, if you need to monitor employee activities, please do so. What I'm proposing is a way to implement your insider threat program without making your employees paranoid and without having to rely on these measures. While the NISPOM and DoD recommends implementing an insider threat program, they're less than committal on how to do it. For example, you may see disclaimers that you need to consult legal. You may need to consult lawyers, ethics advisors, as well as human resources. So that tells you there may be a problem at the get-go if you are using these types of countermeasures. The countermeasures I'm recommending will not raise red flags with legal and ethics or human resources disciplines. So please stay tuned as we discuss those in further podcasts. So in summary for this podcast, I'd like you to be aware of that there are insider threat program requirements for protecting classified information. That's what this book, or that's what this podcast is primarily focused on. It requires more, countermeasures and more in-depth and countermeasures that are typically practiced in our field. And again, those countermeasures are monitoring employee activity and reporting behavioral issues. And right now, the guidance again is general, and it's the guidance provided with warning that you should consult legal or obtain legal advice, obtain advice from ethics professionals as well as human resources professionals. Additionally, some training also asks that defense contractors and government officials obtain the services of behavioral analysts to determine or dictate employee behavior activity based on their personalities or other types of studies. So for the insider threat, here are some things I recommend that I'll be speaking more in depth. First of all, before you can employ information assurance or information security or even cybersecurity, need to understand specifically what needs to be protected. After you determine what needs protected, determine who needs to access that information. Once you do that, you can start putting countermeasures in place that are based on these access requirements, so that if an authorized person who can come in and is authorized to turn off alarms, unlock safes, and access classified information, you can still apply these methodologies to determine who the insider threat might be. And so we recommend identifying what needs to be protected, limiting access to that protection. For example, NISPOM requires that secret information be stored in a GSA-approved container. You can make sure that only people with the secret clearance can access that container. However, you may have all kinds of secret information locked up in that same container that not everybody needs to access. So how are you going to limit that access?